What if I told you that some of Hollywood's greatest love stories were actually elaborate lies? Behind the golden facade of Tinseltown's most famous marriages lay secrets that could destroy careers overnight. Old Hollywood sparkled with glamour, but behind the glittering facade, many stars lived in terror of exposure. In an era when loving someone of the same sex could destroy everything you'd worked for, actors and actresses entered marriages of convenience, lavender marriages, to protect their careers and reputations. Today, we're uncovering the hidden stories behind Hollywood's most secretive unions, revealing the human cost of living a lie in the golden age of cinema. These stories illuminate not just the struggles of individual performers, but the broader historical context of experiences during a time of widespread discrimination and persecution. Judy Garland and Mark Herren. When Judy Garland married Mark Herren on November 14, 1965, in Las Vegas, she was at one of the darkest points of her life. What the public didn't know was that Herren had been in a long-term relationship with fellow actor Henry Brandon, a relationship he would return to after their brief marriage ended. Judy's pain ran deeper than most people realized. As a child at MGM, studio executives had called her their ugly little fat girl and forced her on amphetamines to stay thin while working 72-hour shifts. Even worse, studio head Louis B. Mayer had essayed her, threatening to ruin her career if she told anyone. These traumas created wounds that never fully healed. The marriage to Herren was meant to be another chapter in Judy's search for stability, but it was doomed from the start. The couple separated after just 5 months, and their divorce was finalized in July 1967. Almost immediately after their split, Herren openly embraced his relationship with Brandon, with whom he remained until Brandon's passing in 1990. Herren's willingness to acknowledge his true identity after the marriage highlighted the immense pressures Hollywood placed on stars to conform to societal expectations. The era's rigid standards made such arrangements almost necessary for career survival. Yet Herren's later openness about his relationship with Brandon showed how attitudes toward homosexual unions were slowly beginning to change in the entertainment industry. For Judy, the failed marriage was another in a series of relationships that promised happiness but delivered only more pain, a pattern that would continue until her tragic passing in 1969. Rock Hudson and Phyllis Gates. Rock Hudson's carefully cultivated image as Hollywood's charming ladies' man was crumbling by 1955, and his agent Henry Wilson knew drastic action was needed. Confidential magazine was investigating Hudson's secret relationships with men, threatening to expose the truth about America's biggest heartthrob. Wilson's solution was brutally efficient: a hasty marriage of convenience to Phyllis Gates, Hudson's secretary. The wedding took place on November 9, 1955, just in time to counteract the media scrutiny. Though the marriage temporarily quieted rumors, the public remained skeptical. Hudson's reluctance to engage in typical marital behavior only fueled more speculation. Gates later claimed she had no knowledge of Hudson's sexuality during their marriage, though many believe she was fully aware of the arrangement. The marriage lasted only 3 years, ending in divorce in 1958, but it had served its purpose of protecting Hudson's career during Hollywood's golden age. Hudson's final years were marked by unimaginable suffering. In 1984, he became one of the first major celebrities diagnosed with AIDS, spending his last months terrified of exposure and trying to contact former lovers to warn them. He sought experimental treatments in France, but nothing could save him. His public revelation of his AIDS diagnosis in July 1985 sent shockwaves around the world. He passed away just 3 months later at age 59, his gaunt appearance and deteriorating condition serving as a tragic symbol of the epidemic's devastating impact. Hudson never publicly confirmed the truth about his personal life, but his story became one of the most documented examples of how Hollywood stars were forced to live double lives to maintain their careers, a system that ultimately contributed to his isolation and suffering in his final days. Montgomery Clift, the tormented method actor. Montgomery Clift embodied the conflicted soul of 1950s Hollywood becoming one of the era's most celebrated and tragic figures. Born in 1920, he rose to fame as one of the first method actors, bringing intense vulnerability to roles in films like A Place in the Sun and From Here to Eternity, earning 4 Oscar nominations before his passing at just 45. Unlike many contemporaries who entered lavender marriages, Clift chose to remain unmarried, living a deliberately private life that confounded gossip columnists desperate to link him romantically with various women. His refusal to conform to Hollywood's manufactured relationships made him both a rebel and a target. The defining tragedy of Clift's life occurred in 1956 when he crashed his car into a telephone pole while leaving Elizabeth Taylor's house. The accident shattered his face, requiring extensive reconstructive surgery that left him forever changed. The handsome young man who had captivated audiences was replaced by someone who looked decades older, marked by pain and suffering. What followed was Clift turning to alcohol and prescription drugs to cope with both physical pain and his inability to live authentically. His decline was visible on screen, with directors using code words to communicate how intoxicated he was on any given day. His final years were marked by professional struggles and personal isolation as he battled the demons of living a double life in an unforgiving industry. When he passed away of a heart attack in 1966, brought on by years of substance abuse, it marked the end of one of cinema's most gifted performers, a talent ultimately consumed by the very system that made him famous. It's important to understand Clift's story, not as a cautionary tale, but as a tragic example of how societal rejection and the inability to live authentically can drive someone to self-destructive behavior. His struggle highlights the importance of acceptance and support for all individuals. Barbara Stanwick and Robert Taylor. Barbara Stanwick once told an interviewer, "I want a child so badly that it amounts to a phobia." But her desperate longing for motherhood was just one piece of a much more complex puzzle that MGM executives were determined to solve. Both Barbara and Robert were among Hollywood's biggest stars, but their personal lives had become a studio nightmare. Rumors swirled that neither could engage romantically with the opposite sex, a perception that threatened their marketability in an industry built on romantic fantasy. Barbara's childhood had been marked by abandonment. Orphaned at 4 and raised in foster homes, she'd worked since childhood just to survive. This early abandonment left her with a lifelong fear of rejection that made her cling desperately to any relationship that offered stability. MGM's solution was ruthlessly practical. They called both stars into a private meeting where their future was effectively decided for them. On May 14, 1939, Barbara and Robert wed in what everyone understood to be a studio-mandated arrangement. The nature of their relationship was clear from the wedding ceremony itself. Robert refused to kiss his bride and spent their wedding night at his mother's house instead of with Barbara. This stark rejection of intimacy set the tone for a marriage that, while lasting 13 years, was defined by emotional and physical detachment. Their adopted son, Dion, would later describe feeling unwanted and unloved, with Barbara struggling to express maternal affection despite her desperate desire to be a mother. When they finally divorced in 1952, their separation was merely a formality. Their marriage had always been more contractual arrangement than romantic union. Their story remains one of Hollywood's most documented examples of how studios prioritized commercial success over personal happiness, forcing their biggest stars into situations that served the bottom line rather than the human heart. Cary Grant and Diane Cannon. Cary Grant's polished persona as Hollywood's ultimate leading man masked a deeply troubled childhood that haunted him throughout his life. Born Archie Leach in Bristol, England, he endured an abusive, alcoholic father and a devastating family secret. When Carrie was 9, his mother mysteriously disappeared. He was told she'd gone to a seaside resort, but the truth was far worse. His father had her committed to a mental institution without telling his son. This betrayal of trust would shape Grant's relationships for decades. Desperate to understand and heal from his childhood trauma, he underwent over 100 LSD therapy sessions in the 1950s and 60s, finding in the psychedelic experience a way to confront the unconscious motivations that had undermined his relationships. When Grant married actress Diane in 1965, it appeared to be the picture-perfect union of two Hollywood stars. They had a daughter, Jennifer, and seemed to live an ideal family life. But behind the scenes, Grant's personal life had become a subject of intense speculation, particularly regarding his rumored relationship with fellow actor Randolph Scott. In 2012, the publication of Scotty Bowers' memoir, Full Service, sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Bowers, a former Hollywood fixer, claimed Grant had a secret, long-term romantic relationship with Scott. Not just a friendship, but a passionate partnership that Grant went to great lengths to conceal. These revelations seemed to create tension in Grant's marriage to Cannon, and the couple divorced in 1968, just 3 years after their wedding. The breakdown of their marriage, combined with increasing speculation about his private life, led many to wonder if Grant had married Cannon to protect his career while keeping his true desires hidden. Despite the public intrigue, Grant maintained stoic silence about his sexuality until his passing. His relationship with Scott remains a topic of speculation, serving as a poignant reminder of how stars like Grant were forced to navigate Hollywood's strict expectations at enormous personal cost. Rudolph Valentino and Jean Aker. Hollywood's first great heartthrob learned on his wedding night that even the most carefully orchestrated plans could fall apart in the most humiliating way possible. Rudolph Valentino and Jean Aker seemed like the perfect match. Two rising stars whose union would silence any whispers about their personal lives. Aker was rumored to be a lesbian, and their marriage on November 6, 1919, was widely understood as a strategic move to conceal their true identities from a conservative public. But something went terribly wrong on their wedding night. According to reports, Aker immediately regretted the marriage and locked Valentino out of their hotel room, refusing to consummate their union. The humiliating incident foreshadowed what became one of Hollywood's most spectacular marital failures. The couple spent virtually no time together as husband and wife, leading to their divorce on January 10, 1922. But Valentino's troubles were far from over. His passing at just 31 was as dramatic as his troubled life. While filming in New York, he collapsed from a perforated peptic ulcer that had been misdiagnosed. He lay dying for 8 days while thousands of hysterical fans mobbed the hospital, and witnesses later described his body as shockingly ravaged by infection. The Valentino-Aker marriage became a cautionary tale about Hollywood's pressure to maintain carefully curated public images. In an era when homosexuality was stigmatized, many actors entered these marriages to avoid scandal and protect their careers. But as Valentino learned, sometimes even the most desperate attempts at conformity couldn't guarantee success or happiness. William Haines, Hollywood's first openly gay star, William "Billy" Haines, holds the remarkable distinction of being Hollywood's first openly gay movie star, a man who chose love over stardom and ultimately triumphed in ways his former colleagues never imagined. In 1930, Haines was Hollywood's biggest box office draw, more popular than Greta Garbo or Gary Cooper, commanding $10,000 per week and living openly with his boyfriend, Jimmy Shields. Born in Virginia in 1900, he'd run away from home at 14 with another boy he called his boyfriend, eventually making his way to Hollywood. The turning point came in 1933 when Haines was arrested for picking up a sailor, and rumors reached the press. Studio chief Louis B. Mayer gave him an ultimatum: enter a lavender marriage or lose his contract. Haynes's response was characteristically bold. "I am already married," he said, referring to Shields. "I'll be glad to give him up just as soon as you give up your wife." Rather than compromise his authentic life, Haines walked away from stardom and reinvented himself as an interior decorator. His innate sense of style, combined with support from friends like Joan Crawford, launched what became an even more successful career. He created the Hollywood Regency style and ultimately became wealthier than he'd ever been as an actor. Haines and Shields remained together for 47 years, until Haynes's passing from lung cancer in 1973. 3 months later, Shields took his own life, leaving a note that read, "I now find it impossible to go it alone. I am much too lonely." Their love story, which Joan Crawford called the happiest married couple in Hollywood, proved that choosing authenticity over conformity could lead to both personal fulfillment and professional success, making Haynes a pioneer whose courage paved the way for future generations. Haynes's story demonstrates that there were alternatives to the lavender marriage system, though they required tremendous courage and financial independence that not all stars possessed. Niels Astor and Vivian Duncan. When Swedish-born actor Niels Astor married Vivian Duncan in August 1930, he was hoping to silence the whispers that threatened to destroy his career. Hollywood's moral expectations were rigid, and any deviation from societal norms could mean professional exile. Astor, known for his striking looks and intense screen presence, wed his Topsy and Ava co-star in what was widely believed to be a strategic move to maintain a socially acceptable public image. Their marriage produced one child, Evelyn, but the union itself lasted only 2 years, ending in divorce in 1932. Despite this effort to conform, Astor's career began to decline after his divorce. His leading man roles diminished, and he eventually found himself working in smaller productions. The industry that had once celebrated his exotic appeal now viewed him with skepticism, suggesting that even when stars made the required sacrifices, Hollywood could still turn its back on them. Astor's experience exemplified the precarious nature of Hollywood stardom, where personal sacrifices were demanded to uphold a curated image, yet success was never guaranteed. His brief marriage underscored the pressure actors faced to conform, while also highlighting how even the most careful attempts to fit Hollywood's prescribed mold could fail to protect a career from industry prejudice. Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne. Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne were celebrated as one of theater's greatest acting duos, but their legendary partnership may have concealed a different kind of arrangement altogether. Their on-stage chemistry and seamless collaboration made them the ultimate husband and wife team in the public's mind. However, persistent rumors suggested their marriage was a lavender arrangement, a strategic partnership that allowed them to navigate social and professional pressures without revealing their true private lives. In an era when being openly gay or bisexual could end a career and destroy reputations, a marriage like theirs provided the perfect shield. It allowed them to operate within Hollywood and the theater world without scrutiny or scandal, maintaining their status as beloved performers while protecting their personal secrets. Despite never addressing the speculation publicly, their relationship remained a subject of intrigue, with whispers of their private affairs lingering long after the end of their lives. The fact that neither was ever publicly outed during their lifetime only deepens the mystery surrounding their relationship. Their enduring partnership, both professionally and personally, suggests a mutual understanding and respect that transcended whatever romantic feelings may or may not have existed. Whether their marriage was born of love or convenience, it successfully served its purpose, allowing both to thrive artistically while keeping their private lives protected from a world that wasn't ready to accept them as they truly were. Tallulah Bankhead and John Emery. Tallulah Bankhead's life was marked by tragedy from the very beginning. Her mother, Adelaide, passed away of blood poisoning shortly after giving birth to her, leaving Tallulah and her sister to be raised by their grieving father and grandparents. This early loss of maternal love created a lifelong hunger for attention and affection that drove her famously wild behavior. Born into a prominent political family, her father, William B. Bankhead, served as Speaker of the House until his passing in 1940. Tallulah faced additional pressure to maintain a respectable public image despite her scandalous private life. She'd had her first romantic experiences with girls while attending convent schools, an aspect of her identity that remained significant throughout her life. In 1937, Bankhead married actor John Emery in what many believed was more about managing public perception than romantic devotion. Emery was a respected stage and film actor who made a fitting match on paper, but their relationship lacked the passion and intensity Tallulah was known for in her personal affairs. The couple never had children, and despite its brevity, the marriage provided Bankhead with protective cover, shielding her from the harsh scrutiny that openly queer individuals faced in Hollywood. Her relationships with both men and women were well known within elite circles, yet this strategic union allowed her to continue working without the level of controversy that might have otherwise threatened her career. Today, Bankhead's personal life remains an intriguing chapter in Hollywood's complex treatment of their actors, cementing her legacy as a trailblazer who navigated fame on her own terms. James Dean, the rebel's hidden truth. James Dean's meteoric rise and tragic passing at age 24 made him an instant legend, but the full truth reveals a young man struggling with his sexuality in an era that demanded rigid conformity. Though he completed only 3 films, Dean became the embodiment of 1950s youth rebellion, a role that reflected his own hidden battles. Born in Indiana in 1931, Dean lost his mother to cancer when he was 9, a trauma that shaped his lifelong search for acceptance and love. His move to New York brought him into contact with the city's underground gay scene, where he found both romantic relationships and the freedom to explore his identity away from mainstream society's judgment. Dean's sexuality was an open secret within certain Hollywood circles, though studios worked desperately to maintain his image as a heterosexual heartthrob. When questioned about his orientation, Dean once famously replied, "No, I'm not homosexual, but I am also not going through life with one hand tied behind my back," a statement suggesting his unwillingness to limit himself to conventional categories. His relationships with men included rumored affairs with fellow actors and other entertainment figures, though the secrecy required took a psychological toll. Dean's method acting seemed to channel his own internal conflicts into his performances, creating characters who embodied the restless, searching quality that defined his own life. Just weeks before East of Eden's release, in 1955, Dean was reportedly forced to pay off a former male lover to prevent exposure, a stark reminder of the constant threat hanging over gay and bisexual actors. The pressure of living a double life, combined with his natural rebelliousness, may have contributed to the reckless behavior that led to his passing in a car crash on September 30th, 1955. Dean's posthumous transformation into a gay icon revealed truths carefully hidden during his lifetime. His 3 films continue to resonate with audiences who see in his performances the authentic pain of a young man caught between his true self and society's expectations, making him perhaps the most tragic figure of Hollywood's golden age. We include Dean's story not to glorify dangerous behavior, but to understand how societal pressure and the inability to live authentically can contribute to self-destructive choices. Rudolph Valentino and Natasha Rambova. After his humiliating first marriage ended, Rudolph Valentino tried again with Natasha Rambova, a talented costume designer and artistic director. Their 1923 wedding seemed to promise a fresh start, but this union proved just as troubled as his first. Rambova herself was rumored to be in a homosexual relationship, adding to speculation that their marriage was another strategic move to maintain appearances. Despite their glamorous public image, their relationship was filled with tension. Rambova was strong-willed and highly influential over Valentino, which reportedly caused friction in both his career and personal life. Their union lasted only 2 years, ending in 1925, further fueling speculation that Valentino's marriages were calculated cover-ups rather than genuine romantic relationships. Throughout his life, Valentino's sexuality remained a topic of endless public fascination and controversy. His effeminate mannerisms, deep friendships with men, and tumultuous marriages only added to the rumors that he was hiding his true identity. Rather than directly addressing this speculation, Valentino maintained an air of mystery, allowing the public to create their own narratives while securing his place as a heartthrob of the silent film era. His marriage to Rambova, like his first, appeared to be less about love and more about survival in Hollywood's rigid system, where deviation from heterosexual norms could mean the end of a career. Cole Porter and Linda Lee Thomas. Cole Porter's marriage to Linda Lee Thomas was built on a foundation of mutual understanding rather than romantic passion. When they wed on December 18, 1919, both knew exactly what they were getting into. Cole, a celebrated composer and lyricist, preferred relationships with men. But Linda, a wealthy, well-connected socialite, was fully aware of his orientation. She was drawn to his charisma, talent, and companionship, while he admired her elegance, intelligence, and influence. Their relationship was forever changed by a devastating horseback riding accident in 1937. Cole's horse fell on him, crushing both legs and causing nerve damage that left him in excruciating pain for the rest of his life. Despite doctors' recommendations to amputate, he endured over 30 surgeries before his right leg was finally removed in 1958. After the amputation, he declared himself half a man and never wrote another song. Despite the outward stability of their marriage, Cole continued to pursue relationships with men, living a double life that was both exhilarating and restrictive. His music, often filled with coded lyrics and subtextual references to love and longing, subtly reflected his true emotions. His witty, sophisticated songwriting masked deeper personal struggles, adding layers of complexity to his legacy. Their union lasted until Linda's passing in 1954, exemplifying the delicate balance between personal truth and public perception in an era when homosexuality was taboo. While their marriage served as protective cover, it was also a genuine partnership that offered both parties stability and companionship in a world that demanded conformity. Danny Kaye and Sylvia Fine. Behind Danny Kaye's infectious humor and musical talent lay a man whose compassion extended far beyond the entertainment world. In 1954, he became UNICEF's first Goodwill Ambassador, traveling the globe to help children in need. When UNICEF won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1965, Kaye was invited to accept the award on the organization's behalf, a testament to how his humanitarian work had become as important as his entertainment career. But Kaye's soft, playful persona often typecast him in effeminate roles that didn't conform to Hollywood's traditional masculine leading men. These roles, combined with rumors about his personal life during his vaudeville years, created a complex public image that required careful management. On January 3, 1940, Kaye married Sylvia Fine, a talented pianist, accompanist, and composer. Their marriage appeared to be a practical arrangement that allowed Kaye to maintain his public image as a conventional family man while pursuing his artistic career. The couple had a daughter, Dina, and their marriage lasted until Kaye's passing in 1987. Throughout their time together, the marriage helped him navigate Hollywood's strict expectations for masculinity, allowing him to continue performing without attracting scrutiny about his personal life. While Kaye's true personal desires may have been different, his marriage to Fine served as protective cover, ensuring his ability to continue his career as one of Hollywood's most beloved performers without facing the intense pressures of scandal or exposure. His legacy remains that of a man who brought joy to millions while quietly battling the constraints of an unforgiving industry. Tyrone Power and Annabella. Tyrone Power was one of Hollywood's most charismatic leading men, but persistent rumors about his sexuality threatened to destroy everything he'd worked for. His heroism during World War II was extraordinary. He enlisted in the Marine Corps and served as a transport pilot in the Pacific, flying dangerous missions into embattled Iwo Jima. His fellow Marines knew him simply as Major Power, respecting him for his courage under fire. Unlike many of his contemporaries who were forced into lavender marriages by studios, Power made the deliberate choice to wed Annabella, a talented French actress, on April 23, 1939. For a time, their marriage seemed stable, providing Power with the security of conventional family life while shielding him from gossip. However, reports of his numerous affairs with both men and women began to circulate, creating cracks in their relationship. The breaking point came when his affair with actress Lana Turner became public. This scandal, combined with his ongoing extramarital liaisons, led to the collapse of their marriage after 9 years together. Power and Annabella divorced in 1948, but Power's troubles were far from over. His life was tragically cut short in 1958 when he suffered a heart attack during a dueling scene while filming in Madrid. He was only 44 and at the peak of his career, dying before reaching the hospital. While their marriage may have started with genuine affection, it ultimately served as a strategic cover-up that failed to withstand public scrutiny and personal conflict. Power's story became a cautionary tale about the complexities of lavender marriages in Hollywood, illustrating how even carefully curated public images could unravel when faced with relentless speculation and personal indiscretions. Liza Minnelli and Peter Allen. Liza Minnelli inherited more than just her mother's extraordinary talent. She also inherited her struggle with addiction and pain. "My whole life, this disease has been rampant," she later said. "I inherited it, and it's been horrendous, but I have always asked for help." After Judy's passing, Liza was prescribed Valium, which led to her own dangerous addiction battle. As Judy Garland's daughter, Liza was no stranger to marriages of convenience, and when she wed Peter Allen on March 3, 1967, it seemed to fit the traditional narrative expected of a rising star. At first, their marriage appeared to be a glamorous Hollywood romance, but insiders whispered about Peter's relationships with men, particularly rumors of an affair with Mark Herren, who had been briefly married to Judy Garland. These rumors persisted throughout their marriage, though Liza remained publicly devoted to Peter. The strain of maintaining appearances proved too much, and the couple divorced on July 24, 1974, after 7 years together. Years later, in 1992, Peter Allen publicly came out as gay, confirming what many had long suspected. His revelation added another layer of complexity to their union, solidifying it as a classic example of a lavender marriage designed to protect reputations rather than fulfill romantic compatibility. While Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. Katharine Hepburn's life was forever marked by a devastating discovery that shaped everything that followed. When she was just 13, she found her beloved older brother Tom hanging in the attic, a suicide that traumatized her so deeply that she stopped celebrating her birthday and changed her birth year on official documents, carrying the guilt and pain for the rest of her life. Her relationship with Spencer Tracy formed one of Hollywood's most enduring partnerships, both on and off screen. While their relationship was never a traditional romance, it successfully concealed their true identities from the public, shielding them from speculation that could have damaged their careers. Their close bond and frequent on-screen collaborations created the illusion of an epic love story, effectively silencing negative rumors about their personal lives. Despite their public appearances as a devoted couple, Hepburn was widely believed to have been involved in relationships with women, while Tracy was known to have had affairs with men. Their arrangement allowed them to navigate Hollywood's strict moral codes while maintaining their status as beloved film icons. Unlike many lavender marriages of the era, Hepburn and Tracy never officially married, but their 26-year partnership functioned in much the same way, lasting until Tracy's passing in 1967. For Hepburn, her connection to Tracy helped keep focus on her formidable talent rather than her personal life. For Tracy, who struggled with Catholic guilt and alcoholism, their relationship provided stability and protection from scrutiny. To this day, their union remains a subject of fascination, illustrating the complex ways Hollywood stars managed their public personas through strategic partnerships that prioritize career survival over personal authenticity. Janet Gaynor and Adrian Greenberg. Janet Gaynor struggled for years to keep her sexuality a secret, but as one of Hollywood's most beloved stars of the silent and early sound era, her personal life was under constant scrutiny. No matter how hard she tried to maintain a conventional image, rumors about her attraction to women persisted, and her multiple failed marriages only added to the speculation. Determined to protect her career and public reputation, Gaynor saw her marriage to Adrian Greenberg, the renowned costume designer known simply as Adrian, as her last chance to permanently suppress these rumors. Their union provided her with the stability and security that her previous marriages had failed to offer. Although their relationship wasn't based on romantic or sexual attraction, it proved to be an effective mutual arrangement. Adrian, who was also believed to be gay, benefited from the cover of a traditional marriage just as much as she did. Despite its strategic foundation, their marriage was longer lasting than her previous unions, enduring for 20 years until Adrian's passing in 1959. Unlike her earlier relationships, which ended in divorce, this one provided a sense of companionship and social protection that suited them both. Their successful arrangement allowed Gaynor to maintain her career without the cloud of scandal, making it a notable example of how Hollywood stars navigated their personal and professional lives within restrictive social norms. For both Adrian and Gaynor, their marriage provided the respectability they needed to thrive in an industry that demanded conformity above all else. Judy Garland and Vincente Minnelli. Vincente Minnelli had lived much of his early life as a gay man without public scrutiny, but fame changed everything. As his celebrity status grew through his work directing lavish musicals, so did attention on his personal life, making it increasingly difficult to navigate his sexuality when being openly gay meant it would lead to the end of his career. His solution was marriage to Judy Garland, one of the biggest stars of the era. When they wed in 1945, their union was publicly presented as a grand Hollywood romance, but those close to them speculated it was more of a strategic arrangement. Over the years, it became evident that Garland was aware of Minnelli's sexuality. She reportedly even advised their daughter Liza to consider marrying a gay man herself, stating that they made the best husbands, a revealing insight into how she viewed her own marriage. Despite the underlying reality of their relationship, Minnelli and Garland remained together for 6 years and welcomed daughter Liza in 1946. However, their marriage eventually collapsed under the weight of personal struggles, particularly Garland's worsening mental health issues. The couple divorced in 1951, bringing an end to a marriage that had successfully shielded Minnelli's private life for a time. While neither ever publicly acknowledged the true nature of their union, their relationship remains one of Hollywood's most well-known examples of strategic marriages designed to manage public perception. Their story underscores the lengths to which stars had to go to preserve their careers while living in an era of rigid societal expectations, where personal happiness was often sacrificed for professional survival. Ramón Novarro, the Latin lover's tragic end. Ramón Novarro's life embodies both the golden promise and ultimate betrayal of the Hollywood dream, ending in a brutal murder that exposed the dangerous intersection of fame, sexuality, and societal prejudice. Born José Ramón Gil Samaniego in Mexico in 1899, he fled to Los Angeles during the Mexican Revolution and transformed himself into one of silent cinema's greatest stars. His role as Ben-Hur in the 1925 epic made him a sensation, and he inherited Rudolph Valentino's mantle as Hollywood's premier Latin lover after Valentino's passing. But Novarro's career declined with sound films, as his Mexican accent limited his roles in an increasingly xenophobic industry. MGM chose not to renew his contract in 1935, and he spent his later years struggling with alcoholism and the torment of reconciling his devout Catholic faith with his homosexuality. On October 30th, 1968, 2 young men arrived at Novarro's Laurel Canyon home, seeking money based on rumors that the aging actor kept large sums of cash. What followed was a brutal attack that shocked Hollywood and exposed the vulnerability of aging gay stars in an era of rampant homophobia. The 69-year-old Novarro was tortured for hours before choking on his own blood. The Ferguson brothers, his killers, had targeted him believing he was an easy victim because of both his age and his sexuality. The aftermath revealed society's deep prejudice against gay men. Novarro's killers received more media attention than their victim, with some women even sending them fan letters in prison. Despite receiving life sentences, both brothers served remarkably short terms. One only 6 years, the other 9, before being released on parole. A lenience widely attributed to the fact that their victim was gay. Novarro's tragic end serves as a stark reminder of the dangers faced by closeted stars in an era when homosexuality could make one a target for violence. His passing marked the brutal conclusion of the life of silent cinema's last great Latin lover, a man who had brought joy to millions, but passed away alone and afraid, victim of the very society that had once celebrated him. We include Novarro's story not to sensationalize violence, but to honor his memory and understand the historical context of homophobic violence that persisted for decades. His legacy deserves to be remembered for his artistic contributions, not just the tragedy of his passing. Oscar Wilde and Constance Mary Wilde. Oscar Wilde's marriage to Constance Mary Lloyd on May 29, 1884, was as much about survival as it was about love. To understand why, you need to know about the tragedy that shaped his desperate need for acceptance. When Oscar was just 17, his beloved half-sisters Mary and Emily passed away in a horrific accident, fatally burned at a dance when their gowns caught fire. This devastating loss, combined with his father's own scandals, created a family legacy of public shame that Oscar spent his life trying to escape. His marriage to Constance gave him 2 sons, Cyril and Vivian, and the respectability Victorian society demanded. But beneath this carefully constructed facade, Oscar's true desires lay elsewhere. His relationships with men, particularly the tempestuous affair with Lord Alfred Douglas, would ultimately become his downfall. On April 5th, 1895, Oscar's world collapsed. Arrested and charged with gross indecency, he faced a trial that became a public spectacle, exposing every intimate detail of his private life. The man who had dazzled London's literary circles was sentenced to 2 years of hard labor, a punishment that destroyed both his health and reputation. Constance, despite the humiliation and betrayal, maintained the public image of a devoted wife, protecting their children and Oscar's literary legacy. But the scandal forced her into exile, changing her name to escape the disgrace. She passed away at just 39, alone in Genoa, her life cut tragically short by the stress and social ostracism she endured. Though they remained legally married until Oscar's passing in 1900, their relationship became a casualty of a society that demanded conformity at any cost, a harsh reminder of what happened to those who dared to love differently. Marlene Dietrich, the androgynous icon who defied categories. Marlene Dietrich stood as one of Hollywood's most fascinating figures, a woman whose fluid sexuality and gender-bending persona challenged every convention, while somehow maintaining superstar status throughout her career. Born in Berlin in 1901, Dietrich brought European sophistication and sexual ambiguity to American cinema that both thrilled and scandalized audiences. Her breakthrough in The Blue Angel established her as a new kind of screen siren, one who wore men's clothing with stunning elegance and projected sexual power that transcended traditional gender roles. Behind the scenes, Dietrich lived with revolutionary sexual freedom. She maintained what she called her sewing circle, an underground network of lesbian and bisexual Hollywood actresses that allegedly included Claudette Colbert, Greta Garbo, and others who gathered away from prying eyes. Her alleged romance with Greta Garbo became one of Hollywood's most whispered about relationships. Though both women publicly denied involvement, insiders claimed they had a passionate affair that ended badly, leading to a decades-long feud where they traded insults and claimed not to know each other. Dietrich's marriage to Rudolph Sieber lasted from 1923 until his passing in 1976, though they lived separately for most of their union. Sieber seemed to understand and accept his wife's nature, even becoming friends with some of her lovers. Their arrangement allowed Dietrich the freedom to pursue her desires while maintaining respectability. During World War II, Dietrich's courage added another dimension to her legend. She became an American citizen and spent the war years entertaining Allied troops, often in dangerous conditions near the front lines. Her anti-Nazi stance cost her the opportunity to ever return to Germany, but she remained proud of her choice to stand against fascism. Dietrich's legacy represents a unique achievement in Hollywood history, a star who lived authentically while maintaining her career, who challenged gender norms while becoming a global icon, and who proved that talent and charisma could transcend the narrow categories that trapped so many of her contemporaries. These stories of lavender marriages and hidden lives reveal the human cost of Hollywood's golden age, when the entertainment industry's most beloved stars were forced to choose between authenticity and career survival. These tales illuminate the price paid by those who dared to love differently. What emerges isn't just a catalog of deception and struggle, but stories of remarkable resilience, genuine love, and quiet heroism. These figures found ways to create art and meaning, despite enormous pressures. The lavender marriages and strategic partnerships of old Hollywood served as both prison and protection, allowing talented individuals to pursue their craft while hiding their authentic selves. These weren't just stories of deception. They were stories of survival that paved the way for today's acceptance. The next time you watch a classic Hollywood film, remember the hidden battles behind those glamorous smiles. Subscribe for more untold stories from Hollywood's golden age.